Hey everyone, welcome back. Well, as you can tell by my attire, it is another 100 degree temperatures here in the Great Front Range, and that means I am not cooking. We are going to start this tonight. This is the day before. We're going to be doing some smoked ribs. We're going to prepare these, get them in bright and early tomorrow morning, and let them smoke all day long. This is how I do it. As with any pack of ribs, obviously get the cut that you like. And you are going to get these rinsed off in cold water. Oops. Apparently washed the rest of my kitchen with that. You're going to want to get everything all rinsed off. Trim out all of that excessive fat that's hanging off. And then we are going to trim the skin. I'm going to dry it off. And the reason why you're going to dry it off is because we're going to put our seasoning on this. And the seasoning, what happens is when you put seasoning on your ribs, and I'm sure I'll have someone disagree with me. What we're doing here, well, with the seasoning on, once it sits all night, it's going to give you a bark. And that bark is what gives you that crunchy, seasoned flavor. Now, what I'm doing right now is just scoring the back, that tough skin that you have back of your ribs, that cartilage. And then we are just going to pat these dry. I am going to cut this in half because I want it to fit in my pan. Okay. Start seasoning on the back side. This is my favorite. Blues Hog Sweet and Savory. Truly my favorite. Children, don't do that with your teeth. And you are going to liberally, in a very liberal way, get that meat completely coated with your seasonings. Don't worry about it being too much because, again, a lot of it is going to definitely fall off. So be super liberal with it. I don't put on any kind of binder or anything on ribs because these are going to sit overnight. These are going to get super seasoned and they're not necessarily going to need a binder. Now, if you're doing beef ribs, I probably would use a binder on that, but not with pork because it is super fatty. All right, get that all on there. Make sure you get your sides. Get that really, really in. And then we're going to put this in our sheet pan, our baking dish. We're going to cover that with plastic. And then we're going to stick that in the fridge and we're going to let that sit overnight. And again, like I was saying, all of these seasonings, while sitting in cold, sitting in that moisture of the refrigerator, they're going to form a bark onto your ribs. Then when we smoke them tomorrow, depending on how you want to smoke them, you can literally just throw them on the grill, the smoking grates. You don't need to put any foil in them. You don't have to put any kind of protectant on that unless you want to. You can put it on the lower shelf. Now, when you use a tinfoil basket, which is usually what I do, like I did with my meatloaf, I put it in a tinfoil basket, a little homemade one, or one of those tinfoil trays that you can get at the grocery store. When you do that, you're basically sitting your meat inside of its juices, which is great. It does make for a moist meatloaf. But when you're doing ribs and you want that bark, when you're doing brisket and you want that bark, when you're doing tri-tip, if you're smoking it a brisket way, you want that bark. And so when you put it in kind of in the tinfoil, it basically boils it, and you don't want that. With ribs, you want that good, gritty, yummy tasting bark on there that just is finger looking good. All right, so we're going to get this wrapped up. We're going to get them in the fridge. We're going to let them sit overnight. And tomorrow is supposed to be the hottest day of the year. And we're going to get these in bright and early. And then I am literally going to probably sit in a cold bathtub. We will see you in the morning when we get these in the smoker. All right, so I'm not sure what happened to my audio here. I'll have my husband look at that later. I am new at this, and he's more of the tech guy. So here I'm taking out the ribs out of the fridge. It's the next morning. It's about 8:30 in the morning, and we are going to let these sit on the counter and come to room temperature. But take a look at that bark that's already forming. Let's call it a pre-bark. I've done this a couple ways. I've done it seasoning just before I put it on the smoker and seasoning the night before, and I really feel like letting it sit in the marinade overnight truly makes a big difference in the texture and taste of your piece of meat. Now, what we're going to do is let this sit and come to room temperature. We're going to preheat our smoker to 180. I've got my water in there. I've got my cherry chips, and the next scene you're going to see, they've been smoking for about 2 hours, so you've already got some nice bark in there. All right, everyone. The ribs are almost done. I just checked the temperature. It is about 145. It is 1:30 now, so they've been in since 8:45, so 5 hours. What we're going to do at this point now, and what you want them at, is about 195 to 203. We are going to put on the yummy part. That's going to make these ribs moist. And since we initially started out, we did them bone down. Now we're going to do it meat side down. And we're going to do it with a blend of my husband's goodness that he found online. And that is going to be taking your rib. Let's move this. You're going to put it, ouch. Well, let's do this first. Sorry. All right. So what we're going to do first is we're going to put down 3 pats of butter. 1, 2, 3. Okay. We're going to do, I should have put my apron on. Start wiping my hands all over. We're going to do a heavy drizzle of honey. Okay. And we are going to do some brown sugar. Now my husband usually does this because he likes smoking. I do too, but it's usually too hot for me at this point, and the sun is starting to come to the other side of the house, and so our smoker runs hot. It was a funny little story. About 3 weeks ago, I wanted to smoke a tri-tip, and it was probably one of the first 100-degree days that we had here in the high desert, and Like I said, my husband is always the one who turns on the smoker. He's always the one who monitors it, monitors the temps, does all of that. I just do the seasoning and the prepares and all that fun stuff. And so I wanted to smoke, I think it was a tri-tip that we were doing. And I go and I turn the temperature on, and I decided, well, I'm just going to play it by ear. I'm going to go ahead and not set a timer, do it on my own. About 5 or 6 hours later, my husband goes out, he goes to check it. And at that point, it's the afternoon. And so the sun is hitting where we have the smoker. And he says, did you set the timer? And I said, no, I was just going to try and do it, by winging it. And he says, well, Becky, if you don't set the timer, it doesn't turn on the smoker. The meat cooked, but it cooked because it was sitting inside the smoker that wasn't turned on, but because of the heat that the sun was giving the smoker. It was the weirdest thing. I don't suggest cooking like that because obviously you're going to get yourself sick if it doesn't cook, but it was just funny. That's a little funny thing. Anyway, all right, so we are going to take your piece of pork rib. We are going to put it meat side down, and then we are going to wrap it. And then we're going to do meat side up and wrap it a second time. Now, when we put this on the smoker, we are going to put it meat side down. So the meat is going to be sitting on all of that sticky, sweet, yummy caramelization. And then just before we take it out, we're going to flip it over so then it sits on top of it and it goes ahead and does its thing. All right, so we got the second one all wrapped up. We're going to go stick these back in the smoker. All right, everyone. It is 4:39. They have been in there for quite some time, and I think that we are done. We're going to take a look and see how yummy these are. A little hot. Wow. Yum. And there you go. Look at how amazing those look. Now my husband just got home from work. So I'm going to taste it. Perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Facebook Marketplace, look for a smoker if you don't have one. So delicious. So delicious. Thank you guys for joining me today. I hope you have a wonderful day. I hope fall gets here soon because this 90-degree weather is killing me. Anyway, have a wonderful day. Enjoy your dinner. Bye-bye.